I should have brought you some cookies. But
It's crazier things have happened. We have offerings regularly.
Although it's good I didn't bring you Rice Krispie treats, I guess.
Yeah, that would have just looked at him awkwardly. My producer would crush him, though. Peter, do you eat Rice Krispie treats?
Not really.
Oh, you found one of the things Peter won't eat.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out. And he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is an emergency episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany, a WCNY podcast about power and politics in New York. And we're giving listeners a bonus episode because on Monday at 4 p.m., with no care for reporters trying to end their day at 5 p.m., Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado tweeted that he won't be running as Governor Kathy Hochul's number 2 in 2026, and that, quote, "all options are on the table, and I will be exploring them." To help us make sense of this news and game out what comes next, we're joined by someone who is no stranger to gubernatorial drama, Rich Azzopardi, founder of Bulldog Strategies. Thanks for making yourself available on a short notice, Rich.
No problem, David. How you doing?
I am, good. Pulse is beating, but I'm hoping to calm down as we start chatting.
I heard I have that effect on people.
Well, we're recording an hour after Delgado shook up the 2026 political landscape. So with the caveat that we both haven't had a chance to really process this news, what is your initial reaction?
There was obviously a disconnect between his office and that of his running mate, Governor Hochul. It's been a badly kept secret around here for quite a while. What's it based out of? What are the roots? I don't know. I'm sure you guys will figure it out the next coming days. And it was pretty clear that he was not going to be on the ticket one way or the other. So if you're about to get asked to walk the plank, you jump before you get pushed.
Yeah, why do you think, though, there was an assumption that he might get pushed off the ticket? Because I have to imagine that makes a governor look weak. Maybe not to everyone around the state, but at least in political circles, there has to be some sort of fallout for something like that.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously it's no secret. I worked for 9 years in the executive chamber with under Governor Cuomo. He's still a client of mine. We went through 2 lieutenant governors too. And it
was a peaceful transition though in 2014 though. Like Bob Duffy got to have his whole I'm going away celebration tour.
And Lieutenant Governor Duffy is a great guy, still is, and he left on his own. He left on his own terms. It's Lieutenant Governor. You talk to any of them, they're road warriors. You spend a lot of time in the car. You go to pancake breakfasts and horse heads, and you do the ceremonial meetings that perhaps the governor doesn't have the time for. It's not a glamorous job. It's not a particularly interesting job. The good ones do find stuff to make them interesting, but it's sometimes there's no chemistry. It doesn't work, and everyone's got their reasons. This one was a little bit different though, because you did see instances where Delgado did take stances that were contrary to his running mate, specifically whether Joe Biden should drop out.
Right.
Hochul kind of the last one to turn out the lights on that one. A lot of questions about, what the interior dynamics were. But, when the lieutenant governor starts to speak out and sing to a different tune, then you generally don't see them on the same ticket.
Well, nothing has hit my inbox yet from the governor's campaign, but they're going to have to respond in some way. If you were in the press shop for Governor Hochul, how do you respond? Do you say, we wish him well and it's our choice to have whoever we want as our running mate? What's the positive spin moving forward on this?
Thank him for his service. Move on. In a couple of months, it's Antonio who?
Do you try to oust him before the end of his term at the end of 2026 and bring in a fresh-faced lieutenant governor who you could potentially run with in 2026, or do you just have an icy détente for the next 19 months?
Well, I think the decision to stay is Delgado's. There's no cause to remove him.
Right.
I don't see too many pressure points to get him to step down early. I think she's kind of stuck. But good news is the lieutenant governor is not at the front of your mind. For most New Yorkers, it's the governor.
So, as I just said, there was nothing in my inbox. Well, ask and ye shall receive. Here's the statement we just got from the governor's press team. Today, Antonio Delgado finally said out loud what has been obvious for quite some time. He is simply not interested in doing the job of the lieutenant governor of the state of New York. Governor Hochul has already begun taking steps to identify a new running mate for 2026. We will also be reallocating responsibilities within the administration to ensure that important initiatives that had been with the lieutenant governor's office are no longer neglected. Governor Hochul wishes him the best in his future endeavors. Again, immediate reaction. How do you score that response?
I don't know if that was the smartest statement, to be honest with you. No one likes to see strife, and yes, I know it's ironic coming from me, but I think she should have just thanked him for her service and moved on, and that would have spoken volumes. I guess when your campaign is now written by Sly Stallone, everything gets a little bit edgier, Rambo.
Yeah, and it seems like this is a response not to your lieutenant governor, but to a potential challenger in 2026. So turning to that part of this equation, if I'm Antonio Delgado and I want to run in 2026, what do I need to begin doing? We've heard that he's been reaching out to Democratic committee chairs all over the state in recent days to have meetings. He's upped his fundraising in the past few months. But what are the next steps to launching a statewide campaign, and not just a statewide lieutenant governor campaign?
Got to raise money, and you got to come up with a rationale. If he wants to run, and there've been rumors of it, but I don't know how serious they are. He's gonna have to up his name ID. I'm sure the last Siena poll,
70% of Democrats in New York didn't have an opinion about him.
Yeah, well, so the good news is the only place to go is up.
Yeah, and I guess the upside is that you get a chance potentially to define yourself before others might define you.
Yeah. Yep, and it's true, and it would be an asymmetrical race too, because generally speaking, up until very recently, the popular Democrats, the office holders, the people who win statewide, they're from New York City. That's where the population is. That's where the media market is. We had someone from Rhinebeck and someone from Buffalo on the ticket, so it'd be interesting. But if this is something he wanted to do, you gotta do it right now.
And what about gaining support within the Democratic Party? Because traditionally, the establishment figures, the institutional figures, stick with the incumbents. One big notable breakaway I think of off the top of my head, though, is in 2014 when Nisett was playing footsie with Zephyr Teachout. Ultimately, that didn't work out. But what does Delgado need to do to win over those big players? Is it just about showing you're a serious candidate with fundraising, or does he need something else to break his way, like some sort of bad decisions by the governor that alienates those power bases? Or like you said, does he need to have a reason for running for governor that really resonates with those groups?
I mean, yes, and yes to all the above. I mean, you need half the endorsements Pataki got in 1994. Now, I was in middle school when that happened, but my understanding was there were people who were upset with the then governor. Sometimes you vote for someone and you vote against someone, and sometimes the institutional players back someone or choose to not back someone. So I think it's a little bit of everything. We'll see where she is. We'll see where this pugnacious attitude towards the president, if that actually helps her in New York. Her numbers, it's no secret, her numbers have always been a little bit soft, but she's got time to put the nose of the plane up.
As someone who does communications work, what do you think about him as a communicator? Because there's this idea that he's a good talker and can connect with people, and maybe he can in a one-to-one basis. But I was going over the transcript of our interview with him on February 14th, an interview, I should note, where he declined to lay out a timeline at all for making political decisions, and really got frustrated with me when I asked him 3 times about the timeline. But in going through the interview, I noticed that his speech patterns are kind of disjointed, and it's almost like he talks in these little stanzas that don't necessarily all connect. But what's your sense of him as a communicator, whether it's with individuals or maybe in more mass market situations?
I thought he was decent. I was never blown away by it, but it's I think he was good as most Congress people are. Not a transformational figure, but most people are not.
And do you think him showing an interest like this in a race makes it more likely that more people will get into the race, or by being one of the first people out there, other than maybe Richie Torres, do you think he's in a better position to maybe solidify support?
I think it's a long way between now and 2026. I think people are focusing on other races right now. But
really, like what, Rich? Are there any races in New York City you want to talk about?
Oh, it's all premature, David.
Yeah, of course. Who could say what anyone is going to run for? Sounds like Delgado talking to me a little bit.
Yeah. I think a lot of things are in flux right now. I think, there's an extraordinary situation in Washington, there's an extraordinary situation in New York City, and now there's an extraordinary situation in Albany. In a different time, this would be kind of an earthquake. Now it's just another natural disaster on this hellscape of a political environment we have.
Yeah, there is that idea that this is just par for the course now, but when we think about this in terms of the grand scope of history, this is a big deal, but it's not unheard of to have a lieutenant governor want to challenge their boss, although they've been unsuccessful in recent memory.
Yeah, no, it's rare. It's definitely a rare situation, not unheard of. How many lieutenant governors did Pataki have? Did he have 3?
Again, you're dating me, because by the time he left office, I had just graduated high school. Gotcha. So I want to come back to Delgado and his gubernatorial prospects. Is there a lane for him ideologically? Because he is kind of a cipher when it comes to issues. I was surprised that he took a stance on raising taxes on wealthy New Yorkers when he was on the show with us, and he also spoke in favor of congestion pricing. But for the most part, he's really avoided any issues that aren't kind of like America and apple pie. So what do you see as the way he should sort of craft his identity moving forward as he tries to get more people to know who he is?
He is sort of a blank slate, but I do think that, he's a former Hudson Valley congressman in a very swingy purple district. So I think that's just what played out there in Rhinebeck. But just like Governor Hochul and just like Kirsten Gillibrand, you do have a chance to moderate your positions a little bit to meet the moment, to better fit with an electorate you're trying to go to. And if he wanted to do that, he could.
And coming back now, given the statement we have from the governor's press office, do you think he should stick around as LG, or should he leave, given the fact that the governor's office has all but said they're going to put you in a broom closet a la Michael Bragman in the failed 2000 Shelley Silver coup?
You can't accuse me of dating you and then come out with something like that.
I'm a legislative historian. I don't know anything about the executive branch.
Fair. Obviously that statement was designed to sort of provoke a reaction and to send a signal that he's not welcome here. What he chooses to do, it's really up to him. Because again, it's like he's in that seat. The voters put him there. and it's up to him what he wants to do. I think if he, for whatever reason, he wants to sit around and be the call that's coming from inside the house, he can.
Anything else I should have asked you about this that didn't come to my mind but's been percolating between your ears, given your background and experience?
I mean, listen, it's life. He's got options he's got options in front of him. He was elected statewide. That's not nothing. And I'm sure he'll be looking for, if he wants to stay in this world, I'm sure he'll be looking for an opening.
Would you advise him to come on the Capitol Press Room on a weekly basis to expand his brand awareness, or would you tell him to avoid us because who knows what that host is going to ask, and no one knows what might come out of his mouth?
You're too smart for those guys, so I tell him to stay away.
Oh, Rich, just the right thing to say to ensure I invite you back. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this emergency conversation and a bonus episode of Delgado Watch. Our guest has been Rich Azzopardi, founder of Bulldog Strategies. Rich, thank you so much for joining us.
David, thanks for having me on. Well, it's been a pleasure.